Woosa, wake up South Africa. You've been sleeping far too long. Wake up South Africa.
Hare Krishna, Sanvanani, Jumelang, and welcome to another Sunday morning inspiration session. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for everyone who's here today joining us on this call. We have a very special guest who is no stranger to the Sunday morning inspiration session. His Holiness Bhakti Vasudeva Swami. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve the devotees in South Africa. South Africa is one of those central places that we need to revolutionize in terms of the preaching, so as to be able to reach a level of all-embracing and inclusive type of preaching. So today's discussion will be centered on outreach in academia. Now, the academia is a very broad-based environment where scholars conduct researches. And we have also the doctoral students and master students, and even final year students in the undergraduate studies, they conduct research. So the university environment, the ivory towers, as we call it in the United States, these are very important areas to be able to focus, because if you catch one professor, it's like you have been able to win a whole state in the United States. If you just catch one professor, if one professor becomes convinced in Krishna consciousness through your preaching, you've done basically what the why. Because these very professors are advisors to the government. They're not only teaching, they are advisors to the government, advisors to different industrial heads. Because of their specialty, they have a special place in the management of the universe. And so we try to focus on how to be able to engage them or to bring them close to Krishna consciousness. And just like somebody, one Canadian devotee, recently, I think they were discussing about a recent presentation I made in Paris, in France, on the 8th of last month. And so that devotee made a comment that preaching in these circles is very, very challenging. And then that devotee accepted that, yes, it's very challenging, but we are happy that someone, from the African continent is representing us at the front lines to be able to make our presence seen. And you know what? We, especially in Africa, even in ISKCON, we've been lagging behind so much. I remember when I was younger, as a young brahmachari, I was the only person who used to attend ISKCON academic preaching programs, where we have, people, all of these doctors, people like Rita and Maharaj, all of those prominent doctors, they come and they give you some powerful insights about how to be able to move forward. And in all of those participations, in all of those conferences, I was just by myself, and I felt sorry. But that was not part of our agenda. Our agenda has been to, go to the streets to distribute books, make money, and to maintain a temple, which is also very good. But what we've been missing out over the years, and it's not that we don't have doctors in Africa. Even in South Africa, there you have a number of people who have doctorate degrees, who have PhDs and a business doctorate in business degrees. So the problem is applying what you have, the skills you've acquired over the years in your studies, applying those skills, incorporating Krishna consciousness in those skills to be able to, address a problem. Because preaching in academia or reach out to academics implies that you're ready to be able to address a problem. Because it's not like you've got to tell some story. Storytelling is also good, but what is the problem you're addressing? So that makes it a little bit tricky. But as people learn to understand how to be able to apply their skills, and they pray to Krishna to be empowered, then it becomes easy to be able to spread the message of Godhead to the professors. And you see, I did mostly, see, my doctorate is in management. It's in management and decision sciences. So you can imagine, what does this guy have to say about Krishna consciousness in management? Yeah, Krishna didn't teach about management. But management is also there in the Bhagavatam. Management is also there in the Bhagavad Gita. So we have limited time. So I just want to get straight and point out some very important factors that we can take advantage of, so that we don't just think that except you have a degree. See, I had my first 25 publications in academic journals without a master's degree. And I'll tell you a story. I read something that one professor wrote. He was the head of department for religion at University of Ibadan. At that time, I was still in Nigeria. I was a young boy and a young brahmachari. And as I was there, I read something this guy said, which was not appropriate. It was not correct. So I felt embittered. So I went to meet the editor of that journal. Incidentally, he was also the head of department for philosophy. He was the head of department for philosophy. So I went to complain to him. I showed him the article, the publication, and I told him that I appreciate what this professor said, but he's misrepresenting the philosophy of the Vedic philosophy, misrepresenting the Vedic system, the Vaishnava philosophy, by dint of some of the things he said. So, but to my surprise, this editor-in-chief, he looked at me and he said, "Boy, you go and write a rejoinder. We're ready to publish it. We are ready to learn from anyone. Go and write a rejoinder." So, and this is like, some rat coming to tell an elephant that, hey, you are wrong. But the academics, they are very open-minded. They're very open-minded, so he told me I should go and write the rejoinder. I did not write the rejoinder anyway, but that statement alone gave me a lot of courage. I started writing for his journal, one of the journals that he edits. And they had my works published, but objectively not really like criticizing anyone or pointing loopholes in anyone's presentation. So as some people, we get scared of scholars. And of course, if you don't have the degrees, there is also a cause to be concerned. But if you do have the qualification and you have the skills, the sky could be a limit. So there are so many ways that we can plant the Vaishnava philosophy in the academic community. And one of those ways is directly by book distribution. I don't know what is operational, in some countries, but even in South Africa, they have done this. I remember one time I visited South Africa, and my friends, they are Indian couples, young Indian couples, and I was staying at their home. They wanted me to come stay with them. So they have relocated to Canada now. So I went with the husband. His wife was working for a research institute. Wife was having a master's in IT. Husband had a master's in energy management. So I told the husband that I want to talk to some leadership professors in South Africa, in the universities around Johannesburg. So he should take me out. And so I said, I'm going to go and distribute Bhagavad Gita to them. So he was looking with amazement. So he took me to one of these universities there, to the head of Department of Leadership. So I met with these guys. He's a Caucasian, he's a white guy. And I spoke with him at length. I think about 30 minutes or so. I spoke with him. And eventually, I gave him Bhagavad Gita because I was making references to the Bhagavad Gita where Lord Krishna mentions things relating to leadership. So we went to the next professor, again on the head of department, a white guy. And in South Africa, I went there right there on duty. In America, when I go to conferences, basically I go in mufti because that was the instruction from Bhakti Swami Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj. So I went to the next professor. I spoke with him, and then eventually I gave him Bhagavad Gita. Then the third professor, the same thing. So when we finished for the day, we went down to the car, and as we were to drive home, this devotee, he told me, "Oh, Maharaj, see, all the things you spoke with those professors, all the things you talked to those professors, they are things we hear in the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita classes. The difference is just the way you channel your language, the way you present your topic. But the content is the same thing." I said, yes, we're not going to tell people different things from what Prabhupada said. It's just that you have to speak in their language. See, all of us, we have a weakness. If someone comes by you and greets you in your mother tongue, immediately your attitude changes. You begin to think, oh, she's my sister, she's my brother. And the way you relate with that person basically becomes different, favorably different. So academics are also like that. If you speak in the language, if you know the language, and if you speak in the language, immediately they accept you. So that devotee said he identified that very factor. So yeah, we could distribute books to professors. Now, I want to give you another negative story, something that happened in the US. One white guy, one devotee, he told me this. They went to Boston to distribute Back to God. Boston is one of the Ivy League universities in the United States, most high-profile universities. So they went to the park, and he saw one young professor highlighted from his car, and he approached his professor with Back to God magazine. And as soon as the professor saw that he was trying to give him a book, his attitude, his response was, "Hey, don't you know I'm Howard professor?" In other words, I'm Howard professor. What can you tell me? And that devotee, he mentioned how he was completely destabilized the whole of that day. He couldn't distribute any book. You know, what's in the whole situation? He had no college degree. He never went to college. He never went to university. And so here you see someone just traumatize him intentionally to weaken him. And so he told me how he was very much affected. So in that sense, if one does not have the skills, I have faced difficulties similar to that. Even when I was not having a master's degree. I remember I went to one federal university and I met the head of the department for philosophy and religion. I went to solicit that I speak to his students. I gave a talk to his students. And this gentleman, I was putting on a dhoti, tilak, and all this in, Vaishnav dress. And this gentleman, he's a Christian, he's an elderly person. He's supposed to be like my grandfather at that time. He was an elderly person. So he just looked at me despicably. He looked me up and looked me down. Again, he repeated up and down. And then he told me, "We don't do this here." And so I like those type of things, and I took it like a challenge. It reminded me of my skills and qualifications. I had 25 publications behind me, most of them from the most reputed universities in the country. So I told him, "Excuse me, sir, but I have 25 publications in peer-reviewed journals in 3 years." So he was weakened by that. It's one skinny guy telling him he had 25 publications in 3 years. So he said, could I bring some of those publications for him to see? So the next day, I went back to that university. I went back to him, and then I brought some 3 journals from the most high-profile university in the country, where I had some publications. So I showed it to him, and I opened and showed him my publications in the journal. And you know what he said? Guess what he said? His response was, "So when are you coming to make a presentation?" I'm sorry, I'm having some cough. So, and then, right on the spot, we arranged, and I came to give the talk at this specific day. So, yeah, one could feel, demoralized if you face that type of challenge, and the professor talks you down, and you don't have a good professional development, I mean, he'll get away with it. But to me, people don't get away with it when they try to look at me, or when they try to bring me down. I talk them back and show them my skills and my qualifications. So yeah, that could be a problem. But essentially, if we have some developed skills, it makes things easy. So that is about talking and book distribution. For the talking to departments, there are so many departments that you can talk to. And it's not just only religion and philosophy. You could go to the heads of department for religion and philosophy to solicit for a slot, solicit for an opportunity to be able to talk to their students, and make sure you document down that you're representing an international organization. I mean, I remember in those days, what I was using was International Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust. Yeah, because ISKCON is like a religion. And so sometimes they tend to deny the fact that they don't want to associate with religion. So I was using Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust with the overseas headquarters address and all the stuff, telephones and all the stuff. Eventually, also we established the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, where which became very much exposed to a number of scholars, and they accepted our proposals to talk to their students. And I remember one of those departments that I talked to some students and got really arousing response was English language. Can you imagine? You can talk to English language students, not just religion or philosophy. So I had this professor who invited me to come to talk to his final year students who are graduating in English language. And there is a course in English language titled Comparative Oral Literature. So in comparative oral literature, you can really talk about, like there in Africa, you can give a comparative study of the African traditional religion and the Hare Krishna teachings. I did even publish a paper in a journal on a comparative thought in our wise, a comparative study of African traditional religion with a specific community and the Hare Krishna teachings. And it was published in a journal. But I had presented, a professor had proposed for me to make a presentation on that. That was several years ago. So I spoke to his students. And so I did some search on African traditional religion, got some things, and then also spoke basically about Krishna consciousness philosophy. And it was so arousing to these students that during question and answers, I remember vividly, one of the students, he asked, his query was that, you have this wonderful philosophy. Why are you guys hiding it? I said, come on. We are hiding it, and I'm right before you. You're not paying me anything. We are hiding it, and we are on the street distributing the books that this philosophy is embedded in. We are hiding it, and we are on television and radio propagating this philosophy. I said, we are not hiding it. It's just that you have not been opportune to be exposed to these teachings. And perhaps this is your first time, and so you feel aroused, and then you think you never met these people before, and so you think that we are hiding. So a number of people, especially in Africa, they are yearning for higher knowledge by direct perception. That is Krishna consciousness. And so if we don't just feel comfortable, let me tell you one thing. Academic outreach is very challenging. It's very difficult. If someone tells you it's not difficult, it's not true. Yes, there are aspects that are not difficult. For instance, if you form a club, and that is what happens in most of the countries that have been to, devotees form some club, either Bhakti Yoga Club or something like that, and then they make some advertisement, and then people who are interested in yoga and all these things, they come to participate, and that's how you try to cultivate people. You make them devotees. That might not be difficult, but other aspects, especially when you have to go to make some presentation at conferences, when you have to jump out of the religious circle, say you're going to engineering department to talk something that will help to provide a solution to a particular engineering problem, you need to have the skills. And that could be very challenging. So why do the difficult things? There are simple things to do. So we should embark on those simple things first, forming the clubs, distributing books directly to the deans of faculties, HODs, and lecturers, professors, and also arranging for programs with the faculties or the deans of faculties. I remember at Lagos, one of the professors, he was so much interested in our works that he facilitated the establishment of or setting up of a course that allowed us to come and teach 2 weeks straight, 14 days, 14 working days. So that professor is late now. So some people may come around, and so we should take proper advantage of their willingness to help us. And important factor is that we should desire to reach out in the academics. We should desire to embark, to participate in academic reach out or outreach in academia, because these are the people, the students are the future leaders of your country. The professors, they are advisors to the government and all the stuff. And so we should think of how some of us, especially most of you, you're young there, and we should think of how some people should not be satisfied only with chanting 64 rounds and be ready to go back to God. There's so many people who do not have an iota of understanding of Krishna consciousness. And so it is imperative that we help Prabhupada. I remember when I came to, and Prabhupada loved these programs. I remember when I came to South Africa one time, there was a program that was arranged for me in one university there in the Durban area. And in that very hall, after the presentation, one devotee came to me and said, in that very specific hall where we had a presentation, he said, Prabhupada gave a lecture in that hall. So Prabhupada will go personally himself to universities to solicit for opportunities to be able to speak. And in that way, he was able to establish a rapport with professors of religion, professors of classics, professors of philosophy. Now, another area you can think of, if you have to investigate in the different universities. Now, I'm sure majority of universities you have in South Africa, there are there is English language department. So if you have English language department, just figure out from the curriculum. You have to investigate, get the curriculum and investigate who teaches comparative oral literature. And you can approach them and speak with them, very specialists in that area. And you can have an opportunity to be able to speak about Krishna consciousness through comparative study of the Hare Krishna teachings and African traditional religion or African traditional philosophy. Now, another area is classics. I don't know whether, yeah, I know that a number of universities I've been to, they have also the department of classics. And classics department is so similar to the Vedic culture, except that they are basically impersonal and speculative. So you investigate, you find out whether they have, the particular university have classics. And classics, you can just tell a story, for any story about karma, about reincarnation and all these things, and just make sure you back it up with, with some citations. And that's it. So it makes it pretty easy. It's not complicated at all. So if you have that zeal, if you have the interest to help in spreading the message of Godhead to the university professors, it's a matter of just making some little effort, making some attempt, and Krishna will empower you to do amazing things. Another thing that you can look into is putting the books in the university bookshelves. Now, one of the things that I was doing was to establish a relationship with the university bookshop managers, and I give them, Prabhupada's books, and they sell them, and I get the money after the sales. In some cases, they may want some little bit of, profit on it, which makes sense. But in some cases, even they don't even want anything. They just understand that it is some type of good gesture they're performing, the university is performing, and they're ready to do with that. So we have these university bookshops. You could also arrange to be able to figure out if that is doable in all of the universities in the country. So there's so many areas you can preach. Not only setting up Bhakti Yoga Club, because that gives you a chance to be able to do some programs perhaps once in a week or thereabout. But if you're exploring these other areas, it gives you ample opportunity to be able to invest more of your energy in trying to recreate a future that is sustainable. If even you're not physically there, others who come will be able to take advantage of that. Now, the other major aspect of it, of the academic reach out or outreach in academia, is conferences, presentations, and publications in peer-reviewed journals. Now, I have to do that because I was given direct instruction by my spiritual master, Vasudeva Swami Maharaj. One of the areas that I focused has been on conferences, presentation at academic conferences, and publishing in peer-reviewed journals. And it makes a lot of difference in terms of, in fact, before I came to the US, I already had established myself as a scholar of international repute by dint of publications in peer-reviewed journals and conference presentations. No, the problem with conferences, especially in America, is that it's is that, you know, it's pretty expensive. And I remember in those days when I was in Nigeria, I was not even having support. It was just my Guru Maharaj and the co-GPC, Krishna Swami Maharaj. And I had 2 friends also who were supporting. But it takes somebody who understands the value of this type of preaching to be able to come to support you. You can win about it. You can cry about it. It takes somebody who understands the value to be able to come up. But then the point is, if we are eager, desperate to preach, Krishna will make some arrangement. I remember one time when I went to the US. I remember 2006. I remember one conference in Florida. You know, one Caucasian organized a conference, and my presentation, my proposal was accepted. But you know what? I was not having money to be able to fly to Florida, and not only the flight ticket, but the registration was so expensive. Was so expensive, $800. Yeah, the registration was so expensive, so I was frustrated, and then I was just coming to the US not long, and so I don't know people who could facilitate those type of programs, because it takes people who are scholarly minded to come forward to help you with those type of programs. So then I wrote to the organizer of the program, to the convener of the conference. She's a lady, a white lady. I said, I'm sorry, I will not be able to come for your conference because I'm a monk. I don't have the money. You know, I'm a beggar. So, and so she wrote back to say, don't worry, I'll pay for you. You don't worry, you come. So Krishna arranges for the help when it's required. The important factor is that we should make ourselves available. And for us to make ourselves available for this type of projects requires that we have to have strong determination and strong sadhana, because these things, they take a lot of your energy. They take a lot, especially conferences. It entails research, writing, reporting, etc. And so we require a lot of courage and determination to be able to have the sustainability of the project. And so if you are interested in this type of programs, see, right now, I got also the technical skills. And there are some people who are interested in presentation at conferences and all these things. I could coach them on how to even how to write a proposal, how to write in most cases, it's just, what do you call, an abstract. So, I mean, I can help just people, people who are aspiring to do those type of works, those type of projects. And especially for those of you who already have your masters and all these things, it makes it easier because you'll be able to grab, to learn it very fast. So we need people right in India here. In India, as I was in Mayapur, one of my friends, he's a big writer. He's written over 20 books. He's a brahmachari. And he had directed somebody to me. This devotee is doing his PhD in human resources management, and he's finishing hopefully in December. And he's research topic is on it's having to do with the impact of Bhagavad Gita on knowledge, on knowledge acquisition in organizations. So that is a direct preaching project for the whole life, and he could just be able to utilize all of the resources available at his disposal in creating a viable future in terms of the preaching. So some people, I know they are not interested in, academic preaching because it's not going to fetch you money. But if you are not living in temple, I think it's a good deal to be able to understand that. This could also help in creating a better social status for yourself. Yeah. So in a nutshell, we have touched on how to distribute purpose books directly to the deans of faculties, heads of department, and professors in general, how to set up clubs and university bookshops, depositing purpose books, university bookshops, liaising with the manager of the bookshop in terms of when the books are sold, then, they could give the money. And sometimes some of them, they take some percentage, which is doable. And then presentation at conferences, publishing in peer-reviewed journals, and research. Yes, any comments or questions on this point?
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your talk. I would like to open up the floor to anyone who has comments or questions. I see Sabyasachi has his hand up at the moment. Sabyasachi, please unmute yourself if you, Prabhu, if you're able to, and then ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, and Hare Krishna devotees. Thank you for your time, Maharaj, and for your presentation. I just wanted to echo the sentiment you put forward, that it can be intimidating if you're not qualified in whatever area that you want to speak. I know at Wits University, just 2 weeks back, I got an invitation to come and speak to the Department of Performance Arts and Theater. And they're all feeling depressed about their future, and they just want to get the degree over. And it was clearly an opportunity to speak to inspiring the soul and to speak about environmental factors that put people down. And yeah, they had the whole theater there, they came to listen. And I was thinking, I'm not into performance arts and theater by a long shot, but there was an opportunity to speak to them. And from that, word of mouth, now another invitation for the medical school. They are also feeling a bit down. So there's almost like, okay, there's this monk at the Bhakti Yoga who can speak towards depression, mental health, and just motivation. So I think it's a step just to encourage others, as Maharaj has said, that if we can throw ourselves in there, there's enough information from Bhagavad Gita and from Srila Prabhupada and the devotees to help us touch the hearts of persons, even at the university level where we may feel that intimidation. So thank you for encouraging us to try.
All right, yeah. Thank you, Sachi.
We have a comment in the chat, a question from Avafana Prabhu in the chat panel. And he says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your association. I've delayed doing a PhD though I've started at one point a critical discourse analysis in influencing the global economy and university policy. It is a nice delay because at this point, as a practitioner in applied psychology and counseling psychologist, I find a big gap that Western science does not cover in psychology, but a niche in the soul. How can we help in foraging the research that combines Vedic philosophy into psychological practice?
Yeah, that's a nice question. Congratulations to your project and to a wonderful service. Because ideally we need people who should rise above the normal water level. It could be challenging. I see, even right here in Mayapur, I'm not supposed to say this, but just to encourage, just to align with what this Prabhu has mentioned. I met one devotee from South Africa, and he knows me very well. I don't know him. He said, I've been coming to South Africa to motivate the Krishna Balaram youths in the Johannesburg and Pretoria area. So we were speaking, and I was telling him about my strategies in dealing with people who come to me to align with me for mentorship, young people. And immediately he raised the issue of his daughter. His daughter is doing a PhD, and he said I should give a word. He put his phone in my mouth, recording. He said I should say something for his daughter to motivate her to continue to be able to finish her studies. So it's very challenging, especially when you have to do a doctorate, and in an area where you don't have the technical know-how or technical support on ground. So basically what happens is that if you read, you see, for you to be able to coordinate this, it requires a broad-based reading of the Vedic literature. And when you have a broad-based reading of the Vedic literature, the concepts and constructs in psychology, they have a relationship with the Vedic concepts and constructs. And in that way, you can draw the corollaries and be able to present the similarities, and how by marrying both situations, you are able to present a cogent proposal, a cogent idea for a positive change. Yeah, it's not always very easy, but if you want to integrate the Vedic cosmology with modern psychology, it's easy because psychology is the closest subject matter to Vedic psychology. And the Vedas is full of Vedic psychology. And so you just need to have some patience and check out on Google Scholar, check out with other scholars, people who have done psychology, and they'll be able to give you some ideas, some insight on how to be able to generate your data, or generate your literature review, information for a literature review to help you move forward and succeed. Psychology, it is not something very difficult in relation to the Vedic teachings. Even the pure sciences, they're not difficult because the Vedic literature, they're so broad, they're so wide, and a number of things we may not even know. I'll give you an example. Before I did my doctorate, my PhD in applied management and decision sciences, I never knew that in criminology, the very general theory of crime is having a direct relationship with Krishna consciousness. Yeah, you know, the general theory of crime stipulates that all crimes and antisocial behavior are due to lack of self-control. So this basically is what Rupa Goswami mentions in the Upadesamrita, Vashawega, Manasakroda Vega, Jiva Vega, Modaru Pasa Vega. In fact, in that commentary, Prabhupada mentions that if one is able to control all of these urges, you can be a global leader. So all crimes basically, emerge from the fact that people are not able to control their emotions. They're not able to control their senses. People are not able to control their negative thought patterns and all the rest of them. And then they go to execute their thoughts without thinking about the repercussions or without being driven by the strong will to be able to, stay back or stay put. So what you could do, you could also, if you could feel free to get in touch with me so that I look at what you're saying properly and see how best to direct you for the information that you needed. You could reach me on bvs.bts8@gmail.com. bvs.bts@gmail.com. I mean, bvs.bts8@gmail.com. Don't forget the 8 because my other email had no 8, and that email has been cracked. And so that's why I'm using this new email now, bvs.bts8@gmail.com. Otherwise, you get my WhatsApp number from Sachi Prabhu, and feel free to reach out to me. I see other people are reaching out to me who do not even have that type of closeness. So you feel free. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, we have another comment from Facebook, and it reads, Hare Krishna Maharaj, what are your thoughts about students, particularly Africans, being encouraged to drop out of school via the argument that it is all Maya?
Okay, so here is the issue. When in New Jersey, when I was a brahmachari in New Jersey, if you don't have a college degree, you will not get a service in that temple. Okay, I'll tell you this. When I was in New Jersey, there was one young boy. His father had a PhD. His mother is a medical doctor. And he was in college. He was in university doing a degree program. And he left the university to go and try to be a brahmachari. Can you listen? He tried to be a brahmachari. He went to the ashram to try to be a brahmachari. And I know him very well. I know that eventually in the future he's going to get married. He's not the type of, see, even being a brahmachari, except your spiritual masters are really instructed you to do that. It's not something that everybody rushes into. So this boy, his father is close to me. I told his father, go and get him out from that place. Let him go and finish his degree. He should not run away from school. He should go and finish his degree. When he finishes the degree, if he wants to go and be a brahmachari, he can go. But right now, you make sure you go get him out from that place to go and finish his school. So the father did that. And he went to finish his degree. And eventually he got married. So the bottom line is that if people don't have skills, it's very dangerous for us to keep them even in our temples. Because when they run into problems, they point accusing fingers to the temple. They point accusing fingers to the devotees. I like the way Radha Maharaj operates his temples in Chopati and in Pune. It's purely for people who have skills, so that in the future, when they decide they want to change their ashram, they can do that very conveniently because they have skills. You know, one of Bhakti Swami Maharaj's disciples in America, in Pennsylvania, I think she was in Pennsylvania at that time, and then she was so much excited about moving to the temple, dropping out from school. She was reading English language. And you know what Bhakti Swami told him? I told her that if she did not finish her degree, no initiation. So she went ahead to finish her degree. She became the editor of all of Bhakti Swami Maharaj's books. So, see, I force people. I remember my secretary in New York. She's a white lady. She just finished her degree, a doctorate in law this year, in April. Why? Because when she had approached me that she wants me to be her mentor, I said she has to pay a price for it. And so what we agreed on eventually was that she will have to go and do a doctorate in law. Doctorate in law. That is what majority of people don't even know, that there is doctorate in law. Then she just finished that as a condition to be my mentor, my mentee. The parents are very happy because she comes from a background, Christian background. Parents are not devotees. Initially, they were very upset, but when they heard that their daughter was pursuing a doctorate, they were all excited. They said, "Oh, that's a very nice place. Be there." So who told you that you should be thinking that you should not have skills? If you don't have skills, it becomes even difficult for you to help in spreading Krishna consciousness. Yes, if you don't have skills. Okay, you're a man. If you don't have skills, if you marry a woman, if eventually you marry, how are you going to maintain your wife and your children? So, yeah, you look before you leap, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. We also had Spiro, who's had his hand up very patiently for quite a while. So Spiro Prabhu, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, and Hare Krishna dear devotees. Thank you for the lovely insights, Maharaj. I think my question was to the same effect as the previous question. So I'm not sure if I should still ask it, because it was pretty much, to the same effect. But it was about, around something that Srila Prabhupada once said, when he said that, the defect of modern education, is that the people are not taught, basically they're taught nonsensical things, and they're not taught to receive the first principle of knowledge, which is that we are pure spirit, and we are pure spirit souls who are part and parcel of God. So therefore, using that point as a point of departure, I wanted to find out from you that, do you think that the attainment of academic degrees, can somehow become a stumbling block to us becoming more Krishna conscious? So that was the crux of my question. But I think you've answered it in part. It's been answered in part, but maybe you can expand on it more broadly.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a general confusion. I remember my doctor in Delhi, the wife had invited me for a lunch one day. So I went, they had 2 kids. The first child is a girl, second child is a boy. And the fourth child, the girl was very sharp. She was planning to go and become a medical doctor. So one day, as I went there, the mother invited me for lunch. And she was asking me a question. And what was the question? She said, Maharaj, is there any need to send her daughter to college? So I said, and now your husband is a medical doctor, and suppose you did not go to college right here in Delhi. You're living in Delhi in this big mansion. I said, suppose you didn't go to college. You think this man would have married you? He's a medical doctor. So the point is that, see, even right here in India, I have so many young people. Okay, young people who are doing friends who are doing a PhD. And they're very, very active devotees, very, very active. One of them came here to Mayapur to meet me the other day with a group of PhD students, masters, and undergraduate students that he is counseling. And he was very much motivated by the fact that, because the wife was also under my care for several years before, right from when she was in medical school. So the problem that you're facing is not only you, but even in India, some people have this conception. But then, a number of people, even in India, they understand that you can, and it's very much actively being applied in the Chopati temple and the Pune temple, where all of the devotees, all the brahmacharis there, they're professionals, they're engineers, they're doctors, they are not. And so it has never been an incoherence to their Krishna consciousness. It's a matter of integration. Now, let's talk about integration. Integration could be very challenging. Integration could be very challenging. In calculus, for those of you who studied calculus, integration could be calculus could be very challenging, and integration in calculus is superlatively challenging. And so people don't want to deal with integration because of the complexity, it is difficult. But we should not throw away the baby with the bathwater. We should not say because something is difficult, and so we preach completely against it. We see in our own communities, and again, we may be lagging behind, and we could continue to lag behind because of bad misunderstanding of the application of the philosophy or applications of the teachings. And so if the education is so bad, why is it that in Chopati temple, in Pune temple, the standard is that for you to be a brahmachari in those temples, you have to get a first degree. And there are so many people who are waiting to move into the temple. Professionals who are waiting to move into the temple. So Education has never been a distraction. Okay, if it's a distraction, I mean, I shouldn't be here. I have a PhD, so why am I still? I have so many people around me, so many people I've known who are well skilled, and they are doing their devotional service very nicely. So the important thing is not our education or lack of education. It's our determination that really matters. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, we have a question from Atma Prabhu, and I have a question, so I'd like to link them together in the interest of time. So
right.
Atma Prabhu asks, says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, where can we find your comparative paper on African religions, practice, and Vedic culture? So that was the first question. I don't know if you want to answer that and then I ask my question, or I can just do them both at the same time.
Okay, let me quickly answer that. I have that published in a hard copy journal. So except I have to go to Nigeria, and even I have lost contact with the editor of that very journal. I don't have a copy of it with me right in India. That was prior the digital age, so it's been a hard copy. I'm sure it must be in some of my journals somewhere. But yeah, I did that publication some years ago, over 2 decades ago.
All right, thank you, Maharaj. So my question, Maharaj, is I think you touched on it in your talk when you mentioned that academia can be very expensive. It's very resource intensive, labor intensive, and time consuming, and can be incredibly lonely. And the reward, at least materially, there's very little reward. And I'm sure other people, especially if you like attending conferences or contributing to a journal, don't really see the value of it. There's very little material reward. Do you think that is still something worth pursuing and asking for funding from devotees when they can't really see the broader picture or the broader perspective of it? And if so, do you think that the attitude of devotees are changing towards moving into or shifting into academia with this very rich philosophy, given the things that I've just mentioned?
Yeah, thank you very much. The point is that even in Krishna consciousness, I remember when my Guru Maharaj instructed me, listen, this was even a case where my Guru Maharaj instructed me, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go and preach to the professors. Everything else you're telling me is what anyone can do in ISKCON. That's what he told me. So when I started the project, even my close friend, he told me, the path you are towing along is a path of poverty. So, but I was very undaunted. I felt this is what my spiritual master wants me to do. Well, no matter what, I will go for it. And, let the results be given to him and to Krishna. So everybody cannot be a scholar. Everybody cannot be insightful about even research. Every devotee cannot be requested to go into academics, but everyone can preach. We have to look at the areas that we have a soft spot for, or except we have been instructed by our spiritual master directly. I was instructed directly. And so here in India, there are devotees who are highly motivated in terms of, academic development. Now, one of the things that has kept the Vedic philosophy or the Vaishnava philosophy in the closet is been lack of academic development in the area. Because in the past, the Vaishnava system was more or less like, you know, like the caste Brahmin system, whereby there are people who are like opportune to be born in those families, and then you can be exposed to the worship of Lord Vishnu. Otherwise, no. But by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who came to the West to spread these teachings, the Vaishnava tradition has been exposed to the world, or the world has been exposed to the Vaishnava tradition. So one of those set of people or communities that is precluded from direct exposure because they're not on the streets. They're not living on the streets where we conduct our harinams, where we give our free food for life for the poor. They're not poor people. Professors are not poor people, okay? So we're not able to reach out to them through Food for Life or through chanting on the street and all this stuff. And therefore, the only ways that we can actually reach out to them is to be able to be part of their community, to be involved with them. Look, even in South Africa, in Johannesburg there, one year I came to South Africa. One couple, the wife is a medical doctor. The husband was teaching at the university. And that time he had a master's degree. So I was in their home, and I asked him, what is his qualification for teaching in the university? He said he was teaching with a master's degree. So I said, see, you are not a brahmachari living in a temple. You're a grihastha. And you have a family. So, and you are already in the academia. So why don't you develop your skills to the level where other professors are? Why don't you just register for your doctorate? So the wife was there listening to my conversation with him. And then he said that his Guru Maharaj did not give him such instruction. I said, the Guru Maharaj will not come and give instruction on how to develop a professional life because he's not in the field of academia. So if you think that nobody has given you an instruction, I'm giving you the instruction to do so. So the wife jumped up in excitement. She said, oh, now you've been given instruction. You go do it. You go do it. So the point is that it is a very great access, a great asset for preaching. One devotee, he had a PhD in business management or so. I don't know whether he's, a PhD, but he has a doctorate in business management area. And he's been doing wonderful preaching with his skills. Wonderful preaching. He's known by majority of people who use social media in India. He has huge followership. And people who literally may not be exposed to the Bhagavad Gita as it is, they have a chance to be able to do so because they hear from this doctor. So some people, they may not be in a position to even come to our temple to listen to our philosophy, or be on the streets to be given books. But if you go to the conferences, or if you publish in some journals, they have a chance to be able to read the content of what you have presented there and be able to purify themselves. So yeah, it's very much an important area right now in India. And a number of these young people that are doing their PhDs in India that I've spoken to, they are highly motivated, and they are motivating other people because this Vedic tradition has been, way behind the Christian tradition, although it is the oldest religion in terms of, the spread, because we never valued education. So yeah, it is important that we think about how we should be helping to sustain and propagate the movement or the teachings. And therefore, if we want to live we don't want to move away from the comfort zone and take up some challenge, well, it's up to us. And some people will be given a challenge. Like, have put up that challenge to a number of my mentees, and they've successfully, attain their goal. And we look at it in this way. When you have a higher degree, for instance, it makes your work easier, and it gives you a better time frame to be able to do other things. Now, if you don't have a degree, you work like a jackal. Sometimes you have to do 2 or 3 three jobs, and you don't even have time for your family. But if you have higher degrees, it makes it easier for you, even materially speaking, even socially speaking, you are able to provide a better time frame for associating with your family, instead of having to work like a jackal and not even. I met one guy in here in Mayapur, and he's willing to chant and all this, but he has no time to do that because he works for a private company that, he comes back from work every day at 10 o'clock. He leaves the home at 7 o'clock. Because this is the ill effect of a low or not having a high profile educational status. Yeah, so we have to choose our lives. What we want to do is up to us, and especially when we have an opportunity to be able. I deal with my mentees in a different way, and except for somebody who doesn't want to really apply higher values and social status to himself or to herself, and they want to live in a low ebb of social life and walk like an ass. Well, it's up to you. You do that. But the point also is that if, for instance, you're a female, if you don't have good education, there are chances that you don't have a nice husband, a reputable husband to marry. Yes. Bolo, tell me.
I guess it's true. Absolutely, I don't see it any other way. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your talk and answering our questions so nicely. We've come to the end of our program right now, but I'd like you to stay so you can give us your last couple of words at the end of the announcement. So right now I'll read the announcements, and I see that there are more questions that have come in and people want to interact, but we have gone over time. So sadly, we cannot take those questions, but Maharaj has given us his email address, which is bvs.bts8@gmail.com. To all the devotees, Hare Krishna. But Maharaj, your closing words, please.
Okay. I like to speak globally and then act locally. So back to South Africa. Now, one of the homes I used to stay in Johannesburg area. They had 3 kids. 2 doctors. The girl, I don't know what she studied. I've never been to South Africa for a long time. So for those of you who are saying that going to school is an incoherence to your devotional service, here is a typical example right there in South Africa. A family of 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. The boy is a medical doctor. He's married now. One of the girls is also a doctor. He's an alternative therapist, alternative doctor. Then the other girl, I don't know what she studied in university. Now, you sit down there and be saying that going to school is an incoherence to your spiritual development. And I stay in their home, and all of them, they come to the program. The girl who is one of the doctors there, she is one of the pujaris. The father does the pujari work, or the mother, or the girl. So where you don't use the philosophy to victimize yourself. And essentially, we should be our brothers and sisters keepers. I gave you specific examples. I stayed in New Jersey as a brahmachari before taking seance, and in New Jersey temple, in Tobacco area, not only Tobacco, even the other temple in New Jersey, if you don't have a degree, you don't have skills, they will not give you service at the temple. So that is food for thought. I wish you a great success in your Krishna consciousness. Now the road is open to you. You choose what you want to do with your lives. I have chosen what to do with my life, and my spiritual master has given me directives on what I should do. Now it's up to you to be able to figure out how to trail your journey. Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. His Holiness Bhakti, Vasudeva Swami, Maharaj Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, all of us in this call and everyone who's watching Ki Jai, Hare Krishna. And thank you so much for joining us. If we can, just go to your actions button and just love Baba Maharaj with those heart emojis so we can just say, thank you so much. Dear devotees, we've come to the end of our program this afternoon. Could you kindly come back next week and have a wonderful long weekend. Hare Krishna.